Okie dokie. Oh, Jesus Christ. What a good fucking start to the podcast. Good evening, everybody. There we go.
That's
That's the word
that's
I'm looking for.
perfect.
Yeah.
No, that was perfect.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the new episode of the Joshua Files podcast. This is episode number 10. 10 episodes, did I say? Yes, 10 episodes already. Jesus fucking Christ.
Nice.
But, hey,
Time goes by fast, eh?
it does, and it's been for the past few weeks, and it's been pretty good. I had a lot of good interviews so far. Everybody's, as I was going to mention, everybody's enjoying them. I really appreciate it. I've just had the interview with Matt from Cranium, and there's a lot of positive feedback coming through that. So that's really, really good. And I just announced next week's 3 sessions. And I'll just give a little quick mention just in case if nobody's has not been aware of it, and considering this is on YouTube, and people will probably have not been aware of what's going to happen.
Yep.
So as I'm just scrolling through, next week on Monday, I have got Vision of Disfigurement's guitarist Tom Cahill. He is a very cool guitarist, and he's from Manchester, along with the band Vision of Disfigurement. They are releasing a new album or EP. I can't remember which one it is, and it's coming out sometime this year, probably in the next month or two. I don't know, but hey, the band's most likely going to announce the material quite soon once everything is done. Thursday, I've got Mike McLovin and Christopher Ryan from Pie Cannon. It will be a very cool interview.
Having 2 people is different than just a one-on-one interview, too.
Exactly, yeah. I think them, along with another one, and probably one more group of 2 in 1 interviews are going to be the only ones I've got. Unless anybody wants to hit me up with messaging and just say, look, there's 2 of us and we want to do a session, I'll be down with that for sure. And then Saturday will be a very cool one. I got Lucas Kamlinski. He's from Palenza Powerfist, Steelbirth, X-Leg, and another band called Diarori.
Steelbirth is a great band.
Absolutely, dude. And as Steelbirth is releasing a new album in August the 9th, it'll be very cool to hear the new Steelbirth album. But they are releasing a new track coming in next week.
Nice.
And that's on June, I think it's the 3rd. I don't want to make it a fucking mistake. No, I think it's June the 6th.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's one of those 2 days, and I am definitely looking forward to it. I've been friends with Steelbirth for quite a bit of time now, but I should know all the details, but unfortunately I don't. But, yeah, it's going to be 3 days until it's going to happen. So it will be released on June the 2nd, on the Tuesday. So
on Tuesday.
I was kind of spot on there, almost.
Almost.
Almost. Anyway, that's for next week. Today is a new day. Today is a new session that I am doing tonight. I am here with someone who I've just been friends with for the past month or 2 now, I should say, at least.
Exactly.
I've known this individual from the Bucks and Hubs Thursday sessions that him and Yolin does as well. We met, as I said, a couple of whiles now, so it's been really good to get to know Yolin. But probably many of you don't know who Yolin is, so I will just mention it straight away that Yolin is a musician from Cruel Fate. You're a vocalist, if I remembered correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. And you've got your own podcast session called Metal Minded, so that's fucking cool as well. The only thing I will mention is his podcast is in French, so I know many people that are listening to my sessions are not French people. I'm not got any hatred against French people, please. So don't hit me with baguettes or anything like that by any means.
No, we'd like to have a few English sessions, but what might happen in the future is we'll have with English musicians or English people that want to be on the podcast, and I'll translate during the podcast for my French audience as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in the works. It might happen sometime soon.
Yeah,
I'm looking
absolutely.
into it.
Yeah. And I know for a fact Yolin and myself have been wanting to have a chat about me being on Metal Minded as well, which I'm still up for offering on it. It's just whenever you're flexible, you know. But
Exactly.
it's whenever he is flexible because he's got 3 kids and, you know, he's got a good life as an adult as well. And as just a little mention, he's just finished his backyard as well, just done some decking. So it's fucking cool. I just saw the photo. So it's fucking the bomb, you know, as the word goes around.
Thank you very much.
But
I just wanted to mention too, you said I was in Cruel Fate, but some people might have known me back in the day. I was in a band called Mortor.
Nice.
We did some death thrash. So it was pretty fun. We opened for some pretty big bands back in the day. I released 2 albums with the guys. And when I quit, it was because I was about to have my son.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I didn't have time. So I just told the boys, you know, hey, let's wait a bit. Never ended up happening again. And I just joined Cruel Fate 2 years ago. And we have our first full length that came out in December 2019.
Yep.
So it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, very fresh. And considering 2020 is still a fucking nightmare for most of us at the moment, we still want to go back to 2019 or maybe just go to 2021 right now.
Pretty much. Everyone's planning for next year or still looking at the good stuff from last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat, and, you know, we all have to make sure we support each other. As I mentioned every time on my podcast sessions, we have to support each other. We have to look after each other, especially when people have mental health conditions, and especially when people are in a housing situation. People could be in a jobless position where they've been furloughed. They haven't been at work for the past couple of months, so they've been trying to, you know, find ways to get themselves in a routine. Like, I've lost my own routine of going to the gym, so it's been since, I believe, April time. So for the past couple of months now, and it's starting to lose my habit, and I've lost all my muscles that have progressed from this year as well. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it sucks for, like, especially when you work out and you need to go to the gym and stuff like that. See, I just started my biking back up again because, hey, I can at least go outside and have a ride.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, I've been working in my backyard a whole lot. Every day I go outside at 8 a.m. and by the time I come inside, it's 8 p.m.
Nice.
So I spend my entire day outside. We eat outside with the kids, and, you know, and I found my routine also in the house. My wife still works, but from home. So she works from like 9 to 5 every day. So I'm with the 3 kids all day. And I homeschool my son since the schools have been closed also.
Yeah.
And my 2 youngest daughters, they don't go to school yet. They're still young. So we just have a routine all together. Every day we have everything we want to do and spend as much time possible. I'm lucky because my wife still has her full salary. And the government over here in Canada, they've been giving out a certain amount for everyone who lost work due to COVID.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So I have a good amount coming in.
That's good.
To help me out because I work in the hotel industry. And our hotel has been bought out by hospital facilities.
Okay.
Just to help out with all the people in the hospitals and all that. So everyone in my industry got pretty much laid off, and they bought it for a certain amount of time. So, I mean, even if everything reopens, I still don't have work because my hotel is still leased out to a hospital. Yeah. So I'm not working for at least another month and a half. So it's been hard to have all that, but now I've been in it's a nice groove that I have going on. The nice weather started back up, and you know, so everything's going well now. So everything feels good, even though we're still a little bit confined.
Sure.
But like the deconfinement started up like in Canada too. So a lot of stuff has reopened. Yeah. So life has started up again, but not everything, obviously. So like you can't go have a pint at the bar or the pub or whatever. You have to bring it home.
Which I think there's some sensibility into it. But we didn't finish our introduction. So this is Mr. Yolin Lafrenière. Is that correct?
So it's in French. So it's technically my name is Yolin.
Yolin.
And my last name is Lafrenière.
Lafrenière. Okay.
Lafrenière. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's not
that's
easy.
fine.
It's not easy for most. Like, see, I live in Gatineau, which
Mm.
is in Quebec, so the French part of Canada, right? But
Yes.
I live 10 minutes away from Ottawa, which is our
Okay.
capital.
Cool.
So that's English. So, I mean, I speak English because I've lived here my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not everyone in my area, though, that speaks English like I do.
Mm.
And my name is massacred every time I go over the border. It's like, damn, but, I'm used to it. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it is a habit. I mean, I just mentioned to someone yesterday on my personal Facebook account that I was trying to pronounce the band's name, which was Abnormality. And she was like, that band name is so wrong how you pronounce it. I was like, it's my pronunciation is not the sharpest thing on my tongue. So whenever I try to pronounce things, it's not accurate. And not because I do it just for sheer giggles. It's just because I don't know how to pronounce it, So if, say, for example, I pronounce the band's name by a mistake, please don't give me any hatred on the comment section down below, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all make mistakes.
Exactly.
And please, I don't want to be crying in my bed when I'm sleeping thinking, oh, these people hate me because I've pronounced the band name wrong. But no, so fuck that. If you don't like how I pronounce it, it's completely cool, but we're all humans,
Exactly.
But anyway, how are you doing, Yolin? How's things going along?
Like I said, the groove is nice now, so life is pretty good at the moment. Like, it
Good.
feels great. It's my birthday pretty soon, and having people over later, gonna have some drinks. For the first time in a long time, we're gonna have a few people over, so it feels pretty amazing,
That's great, man.
Yeah, we had a bit of family last week because we started being allowed to have groups of 10 people.
Okay, cool.
So we had a bit of family over last week, a few friends too, but I mean, tonight is pretty much the first bigger night of people coming over.
Mm-hmm.
And I just finished my backyard just for that purpose.
No, that's brilliant, man. I'm very, as I said, I'm glad that you've done something like this. It's a progression, and it keeps yourself occupied, instead of just wrapping your head around and just be like, shit, I don't know what to do. And, be in a numb where you just have to deal with the system and to have to deal with the fact you have to stay at home, do nothing, where there are things on social media, for example, and I don't want to mention it because they don't deserve to get the recognition, but TikTok, for example, people do these challenges on TikTok, and, it's kind of like a way my family have kept themselves occupied. So it's kind of like it's a cool platform for people to, take the idea, look on social media to be like, oh, you know what, I'll do this challenge for the day and they'll do another challenge for tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of TikTok. Honestly, It's not my. I've never actually been on TikTok or anything. I've seen small clips here and there. I mean, but not my jam. Like, to keep myself occupied. Like I said, I have 3 kids. I don't have time to get bored. all day there's something to do. There's an activity to be done. Go have a walk, just anything. And like I said, I homeschool my son. So every day there's a good 2-3 hours of schooling to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he's 6 years old and he's now pretty much fluent in French and English.
Wow.
So yeah, no, he always talks to me in English now. It's pretty funny. I talk to him in French and he answers back in English. And it's from at home. We watch everything in the original language it's been made. So if a movie is made in English, I will watch it in English and I will make my kids watch it in English.
Absolutely.
Even if they don't speak it 100% yet, Mm-hmm. So I usually put subtitles for them or stuff like that. They can practice. And that's how he learned it, from video games and watching movies in English.
Hey, that's a cool thing to do. For example, I sometimes I don't watch it all the time, but there's some anime and there's always subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like the idea of using subtitles when it comes to understanding the language and trying to understand what they're saying.
Exactly, trying to compare the words.
Mm.
Exactly.
And, I kind of like the idea that we have this opportunity for people to learn some way of a fluent language. So it's very kudos for all those companies that actually put the time in for these additional language supports, whether it
Exactly.
is movies, whether it is video games, whether it is by digital media, whether it is anything like this, podcasts, translations, stuff like that is really, really good to have. I know, for example, I had a few times where I spoke to people in their own traditional translation language, like whether it's German, whether it's Italian, whether it's Spanish. Sometimes I had to use it to get the understanding of what they were saying.
Yeah, no, like I've always loved languages. When I was in high school, I took 2 years of Spanish.
Nice.
When I was in Cégep, which is right after high school for us, before university sort of thing,
Sure.
I took a year of German also. Like I never got fluent and I never learned the language 100%, but I mean,
Yeah.
if I listen to something in Spanish or German, I can usually decipher a good bit of a sentence if you're not speaking too fast.
Of course.
So
Sure.
it's pretty funny because me and my wife, you know, when the kids were younger, we used to speak in English so that the kids wouldn't understand what we were saying, you know. But now we can't do that anymore because my son's right there and he tells his sisters what we just said. So it doesn't work anymore. So now we were saying we're going to need to learn Spanish to just have that extra language.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting now that upon our line time, when we were kids, we wouldn't understand these types of like technology or the languages or anything like that. And now, as the younger generation is starting to become a bit more of growing population compared to us, I've seen, for example, kids are learning to learn how to use iPads or maybe like tablets,
Yep.
smartphones, understanding the language a bit more often. Like you just mentioned about your kids or your son is learning English very well. And it's like, it's all that progression. And I think it's come from our how we used to do it. And it kind of grows on and it kind of, in a way, transfer it over.
Yeah, like
Everything.
when we were kids, like for me at my age, like when I was a kid, I had the original Nintendo, right? That
Yeah,
was the highest point of technology at that time, you know?
absolutely, dude.
And we learned it just by ourselves. And now it's like they have a tablet and they learn everything by themselves and they're 2 years old. Like
Mm,
my 2-year-old daughter, she can take a tablet and she'll figure out what she wants to do with it.
mm.
She will go on her game and play that puzzle game that she wants to
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
Same with my son. He has a 3DS. He can go and play on that. I have a PlayStation 4 and he can just play any game on that. He finished the new Spider-Man game on his own
Nice.
and he's 6 years old.
That's
So,
remarkable.
so I mean, like he actually beat the last boss, and I was like, wow, okay. I didn't even finish the game yet.
Bro, I mean, I finished the game on the hardest difficulty and, it was ridiculous. But,
Yeah, he finished it on normal. Like he didn't even put it on easy or anything. It was
uh,
normal gameplay.
oh, I did on normal, but then I went on the hardest one and then that was it. That was me done. But it was
Yeah.
a fantastic game. I definitely
Oh, it
recommend.
was, and I heard rumors that they were working on Spider-Man 2 as we speak.
Oh, that would be nice.
Man,
But I
that
think
game
it might be on the newer platforms, probably.
probably on the PS5, which is supposed to come out at the end of this year, but with everything happening, I believe everything's
Next
going to be
year.
pushed back. Yeah.
It'll be next year. It'll definitely be next year because the reason I'm saying it, and we're going to move to this next topic, is obviously the COVID-19 is coming into play, and in a way, it's stumbling other people's lifestyle. It's also taking other people's opportunities when it comes to like education or try and meet new friends or try progress with their job line as well. Um, Unfortunately, people are kind of ignoring the rules, and actually, now it's summer, people are going out more often. In
Mm-hmm.
our country, our rules have kind of like lowered the lockdown restrictions. So it used to be 1 day exercise. Now it's like you can go out as much as you want for a day.
Okay.
So it's like that's ridiculous because, first of all, it's going to have more likely chance to actually populate the virus translation transfer from like if you're immune, it doesn't matter, you still can get it. No matter how many times you've been out for a day, you can probably meet that one person and that's it, that knocks it out. And secondly, they're doing it more for the economy reasons instead of the health reasons. So obviously, I can understand people need to work. I can understand some businesses need to get back to work employment and actually make money. Like I work in retail, supermarket, and I tell you what, man, it's really, really becoming a nightmare because in the beginning, things were getting completely emptied. Like I know in America, it's the biggest example when it comes to like toilet rolls and
Toilet paper, yeah.
all that bullshit, right? And it still happens here. You know, it never happens now because it's kind of like that was not the main priority. But when it came to the beginning, everybody wanted toilet roll straight away, and we had to try and get some in the back of the warehouse for the elderly folks more than for the general adults ages. You know.
Yeah, no,
So,
like over here, the same thing has been happening. We're like deconfining a little bit, and what's been controversial a bit around here is they've started opening up schools.
mm,
So kids go to school, but I chose not to send my son to school.
yeah,
Personal choice. Everyone was allowed a choice.
which is good.
It was not like you weren't obliged to do it or anything.
Hmm.
So I mean, I chose not to send him because I wanted to stay at home as much as possible. I can do it.
Absolutely.
I'm still at home. I'm not working. Why would I send my kids out to try and get it? You know, I mean, there was no point for me.
No.
And I understand some people needed to send their kids back. I understand that point as like the economy was opening up, people started working, they weren't at home anymore. They would not have the chance to have their children at home. So I
Yeah.
understand that some people did not have a choice, and some people are just not equipped to try and homeschool them too. It's not for everybody. I mean,
No, it isn't. And like you just nailed it on the head, it's more of personal reasons. And like, let me put it this way. If you are a parent and you have your kid, you're going to be thinking, first of all, is it really necessary to take your kid to school when any other parent could have the virus and they give it to other adults?
mhm.
The chances are the kids are going to, well, apparently kids are not getting it, but it's still a possibility the kids or children can get it.
Yeah, it's really like hard to scale. You know, we've been given so much information that's
Yeah.
contradictory at all times.
Yes.
It's like kids can get it, but they can't get it, but they can give it to you, but they're not going to get it. Like,
Uh,
seriously. So what's hard is like, yeah, okay, send your children to school, then they come back home and grandma comes over and then she gets it. That's not better.
no, it's not. And at the end of the day, people can do what they want to do, and that's completely acceptable. Like when it comes to parenting choices, or if it feels comfortable to do the right thing. My
Yep.
personal opinion is don't take your kids to school. Let them actually stay away from school much as possible unless they've been forced to do it. That's the
Exactly.
only right time to do it. And I can understand when there's specific age group of kids, like one of my sisters, she's 15, she has to go to school to actually get her exams done to actually go to college. So
Yeah.
it's
So
like
she
that's
went
the
back to
tough.
school.
She has to, and that's one of the toughest situations where if you're in that specific age, do you really want to go back to school and actually do your exams and you most likely get the virus, or do you actually want to step back, not do your exams, finals,
And
and don't get the virus?
exactly. And
So
then not finish your school year and then be backtracked for maybe a year. So,
mm.
yeah.
I heard there was a possibility that the school can backtrack the people that are in their final years to actually take the exams later in the year instead of like before summer.
But
And
what's going to happen over here that we heard, like, see, I'm doing some homeschooling, but no one's obliged to do it.
mm,
And when school starts back in September,
yeah,
they're going to readjust the school year sort of thing. So they're going to do what they were supposed to do at the end of this year,
hmm,
at the beginning of the year, real quick, and then move on with the original program.
I think it's going to be it's still going to be a tough situation wherever you do as a parent or as you're an individual child.
Yeah.
Like you can have the freedom, you can have the choice of opportunity, what you want to do in your career as you get more older, you finish education, you know, you might want to go to college, you might want to go to university. You might, as if you're in the States and you're watching this, you have to go to high school, you have to do the master's degree and all that stuff. You know, so obviously we still get the master's degree in our country too, but it's like the education system name is a little bit different. So by any means, don't get confused when I say something different in our country compared to your country, you know. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough situation as the time goes on, because first of all, I've been told most of the retail is going to be back to opening in June the 16th. So that's going to be an absolute nightmare, because in our town centre where I'm currently living, we normally get hundreds and hundreds, huge long queues from our supermarket. And there's one big supermarket around the corner that has a massive queue all the way to the end of the road. And then around the corner goes straight to the end of the road as well. So that's a massive one because it's a big supermarket. And our one is a local inconvenient one. But however, we are in the center part of it, of the town center, which it's going to be bad. Then as I leave the workplace on the right side, there's a chemist next to us. So there's another queue goes through there, and there's Starbucks at the end of the chemist. And then the point is, there's retail places opposite us, either sideways, each one way and another. There's going to be queues from left side. There's going to be queues from right side. There's going to be queues in front of us. There's going to be queues everywhere. And when these retail things are going to be back to working operational, they're going to have to get these like the protocol structures straight away, because they're going to have to go for the social distance protocols. They have to make sure the guidance is you're only allowed a specific amount of capacity in the store per time, and that's just going to be a major hassle. In our town centre, we have a thing called Henley Regatta, where there's normally a boat racing session for one whole week. That's been cancelled this year because obviously the COVID-19 situation, and there's a massive gathering, so social distance, it has to be a key factor. By this time, it would have been starting Monday, and it would have finished on Sunday night. And I'm fucking glad that it's cancelled, because it would have been the wrong fucking time for everything to happen in front of us. We're already going to get shit-faced from everything this year when it comes to this whole pandemic situation. And
we've had like a bit of something cool that was announced like this week. I don't know how to say that in English, but those open air cinemas there where you can go with your car.
Yeah.
They're going to open for live concerts. So you can go with your car and see some live bands.
That is quite cool. You know,
so, I mean, that could be fun. Bring the whole family, and you can have your own snacks and your beer in your car or whatever. I don't know. I find it pretty fun. If it happens around here, I'll go. It's sure.
Fucking cool. And you know what? I would love to see Cryptopsy being one of those live open air concerts and have to stay in the car, you know.
See, compared to me, just so you know, like Cryptopsy they're in Montreal. So to me, Montreal is 2 hours away.
That's okay, I suppose.
So that's decent. It's not super far. If there's no traffic, I can do it in like an hour and a half, maybe. Mm-hmm. But there's always traffic in Montreal.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's always traffic in London area because I live about an hour and a half away from London, and you know, it's always hectic when it comes to traffic everywhere, especially in Piccadilly Centre and the Times Square. Or not Times Square, sorry. I'm thinking of fucking America for a second there.
Yeah, you're back in New York now.
Man. I remember I went to the after party this Thursday, and we had to discuss, I questioned something very heavy topic, and obviously this is related to the Minnesota controversy where the officer killed someone on first-degree murder, and stated this was official. I saw the article today that he's been arrested and he's got sentenced for the third-degree murder, which I think is a little bit unjustified, but is still a third-degree murder. The maximum sentence, which I don't know how long it is for, apparently someone said it was 25 years. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he's in there for 25 years. I don't have the official quote.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been given his official sentencing yet because obviously he's going to get like a court date at some point. He's probably going to be released on parole until his court date and whatever. But I don't know official amounts of years and all that. But it's still been a pretty heavy situation, obviously.
Yeah, and
it's racism at its worst.
Yep, and as I've mentioned, as many of folks on the after party said it on the first day, it's more of the America's justice, where there's always going to be hatred with racism in America, always. I support any race, I support any color by any means. So if anybody watches this and think, oh, is he a person who likes Asians, blacks, Hispanics, Italian, Latinos, and all that stuff, I do. By any means, there's no discretion, there's no racism in my channel. Everyone is free to be as equal as a human being, as we all deserve. We all have the same blood color at the end of the day, so we bleed red. And it doesn't matter what color skin you are or what type of race you are. We're all human beings, and we're all supposed to support each other by any means.
Yeah, exactly. Like here, I don't want to generalize in Canada, but I mean, in Canada, the racism situation I find is far less worse than what it is in the US.
Yeah.
See, people always say America for the United States, but technically Canada is part of America, and we're completely different.
Mm-hmm.
See, we're part of North America, but Canada is Canada. It's completely different country. See,
it is.
Like all the memes and all the funny stories you can hear about Canadians always being sorry and just apologizing. I can honestly say we do that.
Yeah, exactly.
We do apologize for stuff, and most people I know are so very polite, and when I speak in English, I do that typical Canadian sound, like just say "a" all the time at the end of sentences. "A." I do it, and I don't realize it sometimes. It's by talking to other people from other countries that they say, "You're obviously Canadian." So, like, I mean, I have the Canadian accent, but I can speak French fluently and English fluently, and I love all races also. I mean, no discretion. Everyone can be my friend. I'm a very friendly person in general. Like, I meet someone on the street, and I'll probably invite you for a beer in my backyard in the next 5 minutes. So, I mean, every time I meet somebody, I always open my arms up to them, and I always find the best in people. And I love having a great conversation with someone, having a brew, sitting outside. I love having a fire at night, just sitting out, like a campfire, enjoying just life. That's who I am. And I find that it's a lot of the Canadian mentality that helped me be like that. So it's much more relaxed up here than it would be in the US. Life is not as hectic. So, I mean, I love being in Canada. I love being Canadian, but I would love to travel the world. I've never traveled anywhere before. I've only been to 2 places in the US in my entire life. So that's as far as I've been. Like, I mean, I've been to New York on a school trip when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I went to Boston one year because the Ozfest tour was free one year. You just had to click real fast and get your free tickets when they came out.
Nice.
And me and my buddies were lucky enough to get, I think it was 4 pairs of tickets in all. Wow. So we went 8 buddies on a road trip to Boston.
That's
for the
fucking cool.
Yeah, for the free Ozfest year. That year it was pretty funny because a lot of people have said before that I look like Zach Wilde. And when my hair is all loose and I have blonde hair, and it goes all the way down, and people over there actually mistook me for Zach Wilde, and it was pretty fun. But it was funny because we had the Quebec flag on my buddy's car. Okay. And people over there were like, "Holy shit, you guys are fucking crazy! You drove like 17 hours to come see this show." And we're like, "Yeah, man." And at the time, in the US, you have to be 21 to drink. And I was 20 years old when this happened.
Oh wow.
And I was drinking out of like a coffee cup. I was pouring my beer in a coffee cup and putting the lid back on and just drinking in my coffee cup just not to get caught.
God
And
damn it, bro.
it was pretty cool too, because there's this culture in the US that we don't have over here in Canada. I don't know if you guys have that, but they love them tailgate parties. So they love to party in like the parking lot before even going in. So
Mm.
there was these people just pulling out barbecues right there in the parking lot, grilling meat and hot dogs and all that, and just
Yeah,
having beers and just partying in the parking lot before it even opened.
that's cool.
So that's a culture that we don't have up here. So it was pretty cool to just sit in the parking lot and have a bunch of people just coming up to us and cheering and just having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can get the understanding where we'll probably have something like that in the UK, but it's probably specific locations. Like you can't do it everywhere because sometimes there's probably like a law with it.
Yeah.
So, it's completely understandable. Um, but
We
I
have this
know,
one. We have this one festival up here in Canada, which is pretty close to here. It's the Montebello Rock Fest, and
okay,
every year they actually closed down the city where it was situated in, because it's more of a like village, I'd say,
yep.
and they closed it all down, and you were allowed to just drink in the streets and just drink anywhere, and then just go to the venue, which was outside. Like there's
Mm.
been huge shows at this place, like Rammstein have played there and stuff
Oh,
like
okay.
that. Like it's international. That's how big it was. It
Mm.
closed down 2 years ago. It came back last year. This year has been canceled again. But I mean, it was such an experience to be able to go down the street, have a beer. Like there was pubs, and you just go to the pub, grab your beer, and walk out with your beer in your hands and just
Mhm.
walk around. See, we don't have that usually. That's just special exception for that specific
Sure. Yeah.
event.
I know for a fact that when we go to shows, we've been told like we have to drink inside the pubs or the venues. So we don't take our glasses or anything outside because it's prohibit. So I
Yeah,
can
it's same
understand that
here.
reason. Um, but yeah, I would love to go to those exhibitions where you can just have those sessions before the shows. Like I know for a fact we normally have a thing where I remember I was young, we would queue up in the specific venues and just wait for hours until the show actually starts, or the doors open. And we will have a little thing where we actually listen to other music before the actual thing opens and, drink before we can go into the venue. And, we have stuff like that. Like if we go to any metal show, I suppose we have that same idea where we just drink before we go in the venue,
Yeah, because
mainly
it costs
because
so much to drink in the venue.
you just hit it right in the head because it's money and it costs so much. And
Exactly. Just because usually you go to a show, you want to buy merch.
yeah,
You want to have fun, so you want to have a beer or two and
yeah,
just enjoy the general thing, but you want to
yeah,
buy merch from the bands. That's
you do.
every
Yeah.
time I go to a show, I have to leave with something,
Mm,
either an album, a t-shirt. My entire wardrobe is just
yeah.
t-shirts I bought at shows. It's pretty rare that I wear one that's not from a show that I've seen. So I mean, except like it's actually funny that I say that, because this is pull the plug patches. I don't know if you know the
No,
company.
I don't know.
They make patches in Australia,
Okay.
and they make official patches, and they're licensed by the bands. And they
Mm,
always make limited runs of like 100 patches or something like that.
cool.
And this specific T-shirt was for fundraising,
Hmm.
and it's about the year 1991, and it's called the year the world died, because in 1991 a lot of death metal came out, right?
It
So it's
did,
all
yeah.
written like 1991, pull the plug patches, huge design on the back, and it's all the artwork from the albums that were released that year that is on the back of the T-shirt.
Nice.
So that's a rare one that I didn't buy at a show.
Mm.
But yeah, exactly. You don't want to pay too much on your alcohol if you want to just buy merch.
No,
I
you
miss
don't.
buying merch right now. Like honestly, I've missed so many shows already. It's just
Mm.
insane.
It is insane, and we will go to that topic in a bit. But yeah, I do miss the idea of buying merch, but I have that responsibility of making sure because I'm living on my own, I've got to make sure bills and rent comes in first, and I'm trying to save money for housing. up to next 2 years. So I do need to be cautious of what I'm spending. But let's say, for example, I got my own house in the upcoming 2 years' time, and I got spare money. I'm gonna go crazy with buying merch because that's the reward I want to take when I finish everything, or buy video games and just keep myself occupied. But
Yeah, but what I find is you don't always have to buy that expensive T-shirt. You
no,
can sometimes just buy the sticker for like $1,
Mhm.
or just buy a patch
Yeah.
for I mean, every little penny just counts when you're a small band and you just
Yeah.
want to.
That is true. However, I do know this theoretically that if you do buy the biggest or largest or rarest item, no matter how much it is, it's still going to go directly into the band when they come to your town center and your show,
Yep.
Your local show. And all that income's going straight to the band. It's not going to go straight to like the local promoter. It's not going to go straight to the local label company. It's just going to go straight to the band that's going to make new music, new merchandise. That's always fine to the discovery of when you buy merch from shows, because it's better to do it that way. Like I mentioned to the whatever episode I did a few days ago, income for the bands is very vital. Like if you're touring, you want to make sure you get the most money as possible. And the best thing to do is actually go on the road and actually get the money you need to actually keep going and keep making new music and actually do like music videos or do new tours.
Yep.
And that's always the best thing to do as a band. Like there's bands like Ingested, a full-time band. They can do it without a problem, but they still do need to rely on that money to make sure they keep going.
Exactly.
And that's always the big important thing, to support the bands by any means, whether it is digital media or actually physical media content, or whatever it is, merchandise content. I do, in one hand, support the bands that way, but on the other hand, I do support the bands when it comes to like label company merchandise. Like I know in America scenery, they always buy the merch in indie merch. However, when I buy something from indie merch, the tax costs a lot of fucking money,
Here too.
and the custom fees cost a lot of money as well. So the custom goods fees, when I get the paper slip, it costs about maybe £20 alone just to pay off for the custom fee and actually get the parcels that you paid for already, to get the items that you actually paid for in the first place.
Yeah, no, it's
You're
pretty
spending more
expensive.
money.
Same for us. Indie merch is really expensive for me in Canada. So
Mm.
every time I want to order something there, I better make sure I want to order a shit ton of stuff
Yeah,
to just put it all together and just
yeah,
have one big bundle. So
yeah,
like if my buddy wants something and I want something, we'll just
yeah,
order it together because it's going to cost us much less that way.
yeah. And that's a good thing you just mentioned, because there's a group page I'm I'm joined in. It's something related to the UK fan base, where if they want to purchase something from, like, let's say, for example, New Elite Standard Company, or maybe Indie Merch, or Fat Top of Lard that I go to, or Boot of Mind that I go to, or any other clothing merchandise companies that the bands have their merch on.
Yep.
I like the idea where we actually join in and actually spend less, or spend much money as possible when it comes to like merch, but then the shipping fee is probably less, and then like it becomes free when you buy a big bundle of merch, like you just mentioned.
Yep.
And in a way, it helps everybody to save a little bit of money as well, because the shipping fee can be expensive as hell. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
why I try my best to avoid online merchandise purchases by any means. The best thing to do is definitely directly support the bands when they come to your show.
Yep. When
Like
you see
yourself.
them in person, you see their show, you buy the ticket for the show, and then you buy their merch from their merch table. Best
Exactly.
way. The money goes
Exactly.
straight in their pocket.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why this podcast, for example, is one of the big things to have on the platform, to actually mention these things, because people, in a way, as a human error, they do make a little bit of a mistake where they purchase the tickets from like Ticketmaster. That's a big ticket company that they purchase tickets from, like whether it's in the States, whether it's in UK, whether it's in Europe festivals. They, let's say, for example, the shows have definitely been cancelled, the festivals have been cancelled. They're not going to get the money back from the festivals, because it's the company's policy that you
Yep.
just pay the ticket from Ticketmaster, for example. So you're not going to get that money back. A friend of mine, he bought, I think it was 2 tickets for Grass Pop this year.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
spent probably about £500, and he's not going to get that money back. There's
That's
no
harsh.
reschedule. There's no refunds from the company or anything like that. Not even from Grass Pop company.
Wow, that is very harsh. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
Like
money.
I think 500 pounds here in Canadian is like $700, and that's huge.
It's huge, my dude. It's fucking huge, and
Like
it's a big
I
hit.
mean, usually when I play shows, see, I'm in a small band, so usually I sell tickets for the shows that I'm on.
Yeah.
So let's say one of the shows that has been canceled for Cruel Fate, we were supposed to open for Napalm Death and aborted. They were coming here and we were opening for them, and we were selling tickets. And like, it's always better to buy the tickets from the small local band than to buy from the company that's selling them, you know?
Exactly.
So you buy them from me, you're directly supporting my band because you're showing the promoter that my band means something to you. See, let's say I sold 50 tickets for the show. The promoter's going to look at the entire ticket amount. Let's say it was 500 tickets.
Yep.
Wow, this guy sold 50 tickets. That's a good amount of tickets on the total amount. So this band is good. I'm going to book them again and again and again. So, I mean, it's always better to support directly the bands any way you can. Buy their merch, buy tickets for shows from them, not the companies.
No.
Just go to the shows. That's so important. Even if the bill is not something you like entirely, just showing up is so amazing for the bands. It helps so much.
Yeah.
Some people don't realize how important just liking the Facebook page, following the YouTube channel, following the Instagram, the Twitter, everything. Just a simple click, just a follower is so meaningful in so many ways that people don't realize. It's easy to just accept that I sent you an invite.
Exactly.
And people don't realize how big it is for those small bands like me. Like, I mean, we released our album in December 2019. Right after that, everything got canceled. So, I mean, we have not promoted the album. We have not toured. We've done one show for the album here in Ottawa.
That's
so
crazy.
I mean, we haven't done anything for it. We haven't been able to showcase the album. So that's been really hard. So we have an album sitting on the shelves just waiting to be heard by people. And we got to wait for an entire year. And by that time, I guess we'll have other stuff, and this album will be semi-forgotten at some point. So,
yeah, and the thing is, it's just going to be so bad when, it suffers the income for the bands that actually try to tour as much as possible this year. Like, I know a lot of bands definitely want to tour. Roadies are definitely suffering at the moment as well because they got no jobs to go to, especially on touring.
Yeah, there's a fundraising going on worldwide for roadies and all that.
Yeah, that
With
is
Nomads?
True. It's called the Nomads charity. Matt McCaggy mentioned it a while back with a session he did on the Fox and Hobbs.
Yeah, I bought stickers from Nomads. I bought it's Defend Metal.
Yeah.
And I bought the Defend Coffee one.
That is very cool. I mentioned that I was going to do something for fundraising. I haven't confirmed any details yet, but there's some podcast that I was going to do a donation for my cow decapitation snare skin that I purchased from cow decapitation back in 2016. Okay. So something like that was going to be very important because then I could donate and actually get fundraising going through. But I found another idea what to do, and I'm going to be doing something related to Twitch gaming channels live stream. And I can't really confirm anything just yet. If you kind of see on my Instagram by today, which who knows, it depends if you see this video tomorrow and you probably missed it. There's probably a little tease of an announcement that I might be doing something soon with a specific person. And yeah, it'll be very cool because I've already done it on Monday. I did a fundraising charity session on Monday with someone, and we made about £250 for that whole day.
Yeah, it
So,
was with the Slam King, so Ingested.
yeah, there we go. It was with Jason Evans. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I logged on to it for about an hour.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I
So
saw it on your Facebook, and I was like, hey, I'll go check it out. I love watching gameplay on Twitch, so my son loves it too. So
yeah, that's great.
most of the time he goes more on it than I do.
Yeah, and yeah, I can't really announce much, but I'm trying to work something with Jason again and do something with live gaming Twitch stream. I don't know what's going to be yet, but I need to contact him and actually get something done. And yeah, the more I know on the details, I will probably announce it at the right time with Jason, and then yeah, we'll go from there.
Very cool.
But yeah, we kind of sidetracked a little bit on the topic, but you know, considering the shows, now we can try to go back. The shows are definitely cancelled this year, so pretty much the question I'm going to be asking, since this is actually the first question I'm asking today on this podcast session, so it's quite interesting. You know, I haven't really asked any questions apart from how you're doing.
I always have way too much stuff to say.
Nothing wrong with it. Honestly, it makes it so much better. You know, how do you feel about this whole anticlimax situation with this whole COVID-19 thing that the shows are cancelled? Because to me, it fucking sucks that shows are cancelled, bands are suffering with income, and like I mentioned, roadies are not employed at the moment because they got no money going through for them, and you know, they can't go on tours to help the bands when it comes to like live shows or festival shows. Yeah, I heard it's likely until later next year or 2022 shows are likely to be back to normal.
So, see, like I was saying, I'm directly affected by all this with my band and all that. And I can see all my friends, all the bands that I know around here being affected. Like my good buddies in the band Insurrection, which is a death metal band around here. They had a big tour coming up. Like it was all booked. They were gonna do a tour for like 3-4 weeks, and they don't do huge tours all the time, and that just got canceled. I mean, it's very disheartening to just feel powerless towards it all. What's hard too is I know a lot of promoters and owners of places where we can do shows, and they're struggling real bad because there's no government support. Everyone is just in total blank, and we don't know when the places are going to be allowed to open. We don't know, like the bars, when are they going to open? I mean, nothing is planned for that yet.
No.
So, and then when it opens, like what, the shows are going to be at 20 people capacity because you can't fit people and everyone has to be 2 meters distant.
Wow.
So,
I saw, funny you mentioned about that, I saw an article, and this was back ages ago now, because I keep mentioning it on my every session on the podcast, that there was an article that was stated about, and I'm not going to keep dragging it on because, you know, I keep mentioning it every time, but 2 meter square gap for everybody. You can't crowd surf, you can't stage dive, you can't go batshit crazy in the pier. You have to stay in your own box. So it's kind of like shit. And as I just mentioned before, to some people, if the capacity is like 100 people, including the band in there, they're likely to cut more than half of the popularity in that venue to actually make sure the social distancing and the massive gathering is actually clamped down hugely, because there's no way you're allowed to allow 100 people to come into the show, even with bands. And then if one person's got the illness, it's going to be infected to every other 99 people, you know?
I mean, going to a show is not going to be the same for a long time. Like everything's going to be so hard, and it's just going to be an uphill battle for the next 2 years just to get a scene going on.
Yeah.
A lot of places are going to be closed down. A lot of places will not survive this. And some of the smaller places are not going to exist anymore for small bands like my own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's disheartening, and I try not to think about it too much. I try and support the people around me and the people I know that are struggling as much as I can. buying merch, buying albums, reviewing their stuff. Like you said, I have my Metal Minded podcast, and a lot of the people I have on there are local artists that I know personally, or people in the Montreal area that I know,
Yep.
and I'm and just trying to feel the scope of things going on around us, and just trying to put the highlight on them and show that there's good stuff still going on around, and like you can buy their merch still. Some albums are still coming out,
Hmm.
and it's just so hard. And this whole podcasting I've been doing is to help out in some degree, as you're also doing at the same time. It's pretty much the same concept of just showing the little guys that are struggling, and just showing the amount of effort they've put into what they do,
Yep.
and just making it shine as much as you can.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
mean, I have two shows on my podcast. I have the ones where I interview two people every Sunday,
Hmm.
and I have on Wednesdays where I review albums.
Mm.
And it was pretty fun this past Wednesday. I reviewed the new Killer Taurus album. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard of them.
No, but I think Matt put on his Fox and Harps Thursday group page, and then I saw it, and I thought that's cool.
It's a
Um,
tech death grind band,
okay.
and they're really really good, and they're local here in Ottawa. And I mean, the guys came on to the podcast live on YouTube, and they started talking to us.
That's cool.
And shout out that in 2 weeks the guy from Kilitaurus is going to be reviewing albums with us live
Nice.
on YouTube, so that's going to
Very
be
nice.
fun. He actually enjoyed it so much, he's like, man, do you want me as a guest? I'm like, fucking right. Let's do it.
Very
I have
nice.
no objections to that. So I mean, this whole situation is really hard, but I try not to think about it too much, and I just try and do my part,
Mm.
support like I can, and when it opens up, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. For my saying is, I do agree with where you're coming from as well, because we have to make sure we support or be there for the people that do need it the most. Um, for me, I would still support the big bands either way. I know it's a little bit cliche and they need the money. And it's like you would still support the band regardless, because they're being part of your life as a teenager or maybe a young adult, just listen to their music. So in a way, you're kind of like repaying them back in a favor. But as some of us listen to like different types of music variety of like whether it's for thrash metal, or whether it's like an old school heavy metals, or brutal death metal, or whether it's grind, or etc. etc. Some of those bands become part of our lives, and without them, there would be no music specific bands. Like there would be no Cow Decapitation, there'd be no Cryptopsy, there'd be no Physical Disgorge, for example. There'd be no Gojira, there'd be no Rammstein, there'd be no Iron Maiden. So there's kind of like a list of bands that you would say they stuck into my life and all the way through until nowish, and then you listen to more different bands that actually stick through even more further in your lives. And the best way to do it is definitely support the bands by any means. And I know for a fact there's a Bandcamp scheme that happens once every month,
Yeah.
and this always a best opportunity for any
Oh, for
income
sure.
bands. Uh,
I share it on my Metal Minded page on Facebook every single time it comes around.
yeah,
I try and tell people, just buy on that day, wait for that day all month long if you have to, and just save your money and buy like fucking 50 albums if you can. Just buy as
absolutely.
much, support every local band you can find. Try and support in your own country to start with, honestly. Support your local artists. It's so important right now.
It is.
If every country and every village and every city supported their local artists, wow, everything would be so much better right now. So
Absolutely.
so on that Bandcamp day, look up which bands are around you and buy their stuff.
Precisely. As you just said, it's the best thing to do. And I would definitely support many bands as possible that I know of, whether they are local or whether they're like outside the UK perspective, because they've been part of my life, as I mentioned, and I've been friends with many of the bands that I've been listening to for these many years, especially the underground scenery. And as I mentioned on my podcast, that I've been in supporting the underground scenery for maybe over 9 years now. And it's like I can understand the whole scenery. I can understand behind the scenes. I can understand the industry a little bit.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the promoters do need that supportive income to actually pay the bands, that they need the supportive income as well when it comes to touring into your town. And as I mentioned, as we both just covered it, support the bands when they come into your town and actually directly support them with their merchandise as they pay individually or whether it's separately or whether it
That's where
comes
the
in all
big
together.
money's at. Honestly, it's everything they sell at shows directly. That's where their money is made.
Yeah, it is. And if it wasn't for that, bands would definitely be suffering of income, and bands would definitely be struggling to think where they can actually do their shows or whatever, because I don't know what the scenery is like in Ottawa or Montreal, but I know the scenery in the UK, it's okay, but I think it could be much better with bands trying, do a lot of more touring around these different parts of the UK that they have not been into before. They could probably get like a few hidden gem locations, and they could probably get another extra 10 fan base people or whatever to actually get a bit more money in their pockets. But I know for a fact when it comes to like outside of UK perspective, when it comes to the Europe bands, or maybe in bands in like in North America or in American Central, or maybe in Asia or Australia, New Zealand area, come to UK, I know that I would definitely go to those shows regardless, but I know it suffers income for them because they pay for flights, they pay for visas, they pay for pretty much a lot of shit. And
Yeah.
this is why I mentioned that with my podcast, the underground scenery it's so vital, and it needs to be a big focal platform to get the recognizing picture for everybody to understand that this is not all sunshine and rainbow. This is all like fucking reality. And
Yeah, this whole thing is a reality check, in all honesty. It's holy shit, maybe we didn't support everything we love as much as we thought. Maybe all this is just going to make everyone realize we do need to go out and see these bands, see the people that we love seeing live, because if this hits again, we might lose them this time.
yeah, I
So,
think
so it's
definitely.
all like a wake-up call.
No, I agree. For my own opinion, and this is probably my own, and I don't know if people agree, but I think there probably will be a second wave, and I think it's going to get much, much worse. When it comes to the perspective of the music industry, it's definitely going to be fucking slated in a harsh way to say, because I know the bands are definitely going to be suffering a lot more, and I know for a fact you can't keep purchasing merchandise online delivery companies like Indie Merch or whatever, because they can't provide that that security of, oh yeah, you don't have to pay that tax, you don't have to pay for the delivery fees, you don't have to pay for the custom fees, because you know what, we will do for the best for the bands and make sure that they definitely go for their income buckets, and it's not in a good way. So unfortunately this is a very tough situation, and it's going to be with us for quite a while, and as we both know.
It's going to impact our lives forever. It's going to change everything we see and how we act. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and here in Canada, like I said, friendly people most of the time and all that. Like when I see one of my buds, I always like give a handshake and usually even give a hug.
Yep.
And I mean, that entire concept is out the window now.
It is.
Like I was telling him how much we underestimate the respect we give someone by just handing him our hands. So it's important to realize that it's such a big sign of respect, and now it's going to be even more a sign of respect and a sign of trust. I mean, if you hand out your hand to someone, you trust this person has been washing their hands, is clean, is not carrying anything dangerous, and it's a huge sign of trust.
It is.
I mean, it's all the little things that we're going to realize that are so different. Like just going to the supermarket and you see all these people with their masks now. It's so weird. And I like just the other day, I had to bring my son to the optometrist for his eyes, and it was masks had to be worn. And my son, who's 6 years old, with a mask, and it was really uncomfortable for him. And he was getting his eyes tested, so it's machines in his eyes, and it was just, it's such a weird thing. And then
It's
he's a kid.
frightening experience for a kid like that.
Yeah, and he's a kid, and inside the store where we're at, it was like he was just leaning on something, and the lady just came and told him, "Sorry, don't touch anything, please." So I'm like, "Holy shit, this is heavy." It's really a different universe than what we're used to. Just I don't know if you've been in an optometrist before, but there's all those glasses you can try on and just touch.
Yeah, you
And
can't do that now.
You can't touch anything. So she brought him 3 or 4 pairs to try out because he has to try for new glasses.
Yeah.
And everything he touched, she washed right after. So it's so heavy on us, and it's going to impact our lives forever, and it's going to be our new reality for a long time.
Yeah.
So I mean,
in a way,
what I would say is we don't get discouraged by all of it. Go with the flow and try and get used to it before it all happens permanently, because it will happen permanently for a long time.
I think it should have. Yeah. And
so I mean, it's just, don't get discouraged by it. Just live life and enjoy the small things. Like I said, I keep busy at home. I have my 3 kids. I just enjoy life. I enjoy working outside, spending time, drinking my good beers, going on podcasts, hanging out with people, having a good chat, and I will keep doing that.
Absolutely. For me, it's like a big change, and I know when it comes to kids, they definitely want to see their friends, they want to see their other family relatives, they want to touch things, and they can't do that now because it's a big warning sign of where's this been touched, or where is this person been coming from, or
exactly, like
where's this pet's got, if this pet's got any disease that can contain it. It's
so scary. Like, it's scary for children. It's hard to explain to them. You're not allowed to see your friends because there's something bad outside. It's like, it's scary to explain. And I really liked Matt from Vox and Hop. His wife released a children's book explaining the situation exactly. So
yeah,
that's really cool that people are realizing that kids are being really impacted by this, because their mental health is also at risk during this.
It is.
You have to take care of how you handle it, and how you explain to them what's happening, and how you manage the whole situation if they express something different, and how you explain it to them. So I mean, like I said, don't get discouraged. Live your life well, enjoy the small things, and just go with the flow.
I think if I can give advice, it's just, as you said, be discouraged, but also try and be responsible for your own safety, because at the end of the day, yes, you can see your friends, you can actually see your neighbors or whatever, depending on which country you're from. It depends what the law is. But I know there's people outside in this area of the window where there's some neighbors around that scenery, and there's a housing association where I'm living. There's like 31 people living in this section of the housing in their own garden. There's probably about 8 people outside already, mixing with people not actually further distant away, actually close.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's tough enough as it is, because the person who works in the office has already been abused verbally about it. And it's like, it's a bad situation, because she keeps giving out noticing for people to make sure people are staying away from other people. Not like you don't have to not socialize with them. Just be a bit more civilized and actually be a bit more respectful to keep their own distance. Because, we used to have our own habit where if we have anyone, whether it's a stranger, whether it's a friend, whatever, we used to have our own circle zone, and people wouldn't want to go there because it's just pushing other people's boundaries.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, this is not pushing other people's boundaries; it's pushing other people's limits.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, when it comes to working in retail, my limit has been pushed from here to there. It definitely has been. Like, I had panic attacks from certain days of the week. I had stressful moments where I work with some colleagues and they'd be a little bit concerned about their own distance, about whatever. I will admit that I did some stuff that I shouldn't have done. Like I've touched people in the friendly matters, touched people on the shoulders when I shouldn't be doing it at this current moment because I could be risking other people's safety and their own lives.
And it's hard to think about it. Like sometimes it's unconscious. You just do it.
Yeah.
Like I see someone and I just want to say, hey, like fist bump and just, hey, how's it going? And just have a beer. And the other day I was having a beer with a buddy in my backyard. I take a sip. I'm like, oh, you want to try it? And I'm like, oh shit, can't really do that anymore, right?
You can't.
That's like it's
a
completely
habit.
different. Yeah,
it's one of those habits where you're used to doing your own thing in the good way, not like it's in a bad manner situation, but it's like it's a self-conscious thing. And like you mentioned as well, it affects the mental health on the kids. It affects the mental health on the adults as well. Like my mental health does go through the roof sometimes when it comes to this situation or whatever. In certain situations, I know for a fact when it comes to cleanliness, people need to take a precaution about washing their hands frequently or once in a while. I know for a fact I wash my hands pretty much regularly, you know.
exactly, same thing.
And people should be actually following the rules and just making sure they're actually doing what they've been told to do. And actually, it just takes the moment off their head, off their mind, and actually just doing the right thing instead of just being like not just ignoring the rules or whatever, you know.
Yep.
But it is a tough circumstances, and
it's very hard.
It's very hard, and I don't think this is going to get better. I think, as I said, it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And the question pretty much is, what's the death rate going to be like when this whole worst situation comes? Because surely we can't do this forever. And like I know some people I have seen on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, they had enough. They want to go out. So they have been doing that, you know. I'm not discouraging them. I'm not calling names because it's not like I want to do that. I'm not that type of person. But people have their limits and they have their own idea of what's their limit of going out or what's their limit of who to see. Like it was my nan's birthday on Thursday and my family was there to actually say happy birthday to her. I was not there because actually I was redecorating my room. I was actually moving things around. So I thought that kept myself occupied, you know. But then I got a phone call saying you should actually be in there to actually see her, you know, for her birthday. But the part of me was, it's all about making sure people are staying safe, and I was actually being responsible and actually just staying at home, you know. I go to work and then I just do my job and then I stay at home. I just do whatever I have to do, whether it's podcast, whether it's actually go do a thing called live streaming Twitch or actually play video games, not doing Twitch live stream. So I try to keep myself occupied as much as possible by staying away from other people, like doing Zoom sessions like with you and other people like I've been doing for the past few interviews, podcast sessions. I think this is always going to be a good thing to do, but the question is how long is it going to last for, because there's no idea of an answer and there's no idea of an answer of when this is going to be done.
Like I said, at some point we just have to live and let go. Just be conscious about it all, but just not think about what's going to come. Just think about what's going on now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. And we definitely have been talking about this for quite a while. And this is obviously a negative circumstances. But I'm sure we have a bit of a time to go for a positive thing before we come close, finishing the podcast.
Let's go for something positive.
Let's go for something positive. Let's see. What makes you want to become a vocalist for Cruel Fate?
Well, actually, that's pretty fun because I talked about it not so long ago in my my podcasts. When I was younger, I was about 17. Well, ever since I was a kid, I've always listened to rock and metal. My parents listened to it. I grew up on it. And when I was about 17, I started going out to more and more shows. And I was in college with a guy who was a guitarist in a band, which is the band I just mentioned earlier, Insurrection.
Yeah.
So he was in a band. He's like, hey, you want to come see my show? I'm like, sure, man. Sounds great. Let's do it. So I went to see his show, which was a week or two after. And I met the guys in Insurrection, and I became real good friends with the other guitarist and the singer. The singer is now one of my really, really good buddies, Steph. And I just started hanging out with him. And then every time I saw him live, I was like, holy shit, he gives me chills. Like I would have literal chills everywhere on my body.
Goosebumps and everything.
Yeah, it was like, it hypnotized me. And then I would picture myself singing. And then it gave me goosebumps also, just thinking about it. So I was like, I need to try this. And at one point, Steph, he just told me, he's like, hey, this band I know, they're looking for a vocalist. You should try it out. And that band was called Return to Strength. And it was an old school death metal band, pretty much like Cruel Fate is right now. And the same guitarist that's in Cruel Fate right now was the guitarist in Return to Strength. So I became good buddies with them. We did shows. We recorded one album, which was actually never released, though, which is sad. We recorded it in the basement of a church. So it had that really big vibe of old school sound. It was really fun.
That's very cool.
And then that band just sort of dissolved. The drummer went away. The bassist started his own project. And then we just stopped talking. And then Steph, once again, he joined this other band as a bassist instead of a singer. And he's like, we're looking for a singer. So then I was like, hey, I'll try out. So I tried out for this band, and they're called Mortor. And I clicked with the guys right away. It was super fun. Some death trash that just fucking blew me away. And he was doing back vocals and bass, and I was doing main vocals. And then I ran with them for, like I said earlier, 2 albums and a lot of shows. And it was beginning to, like, we were approached by Century Media at one point. So we were pretty big, and we were having a lot of fun. At one point, I opened up for Aborted back in the day.
Yeah.
And Sven actually got up on his chair and filmed our set. And at the end of the set, he came and spoke to me in French, because obviously he speaks French.
Of course, yeah.
So he came up to me. He's like, hey, your set was freaking amazing. Want to trade shirts and albums? Like, I love your stuff. And he did his Aborted set with a Mortor t-shirt on him.
Nice.
So that gave me like, wow, I've made it. And back in the day, we opened up for Misery Index, Creator, Napalm Death. I've been lucky enough to open up for really big bands.
That's really good.
And then when my son was about to be born, I was like, shit, I won't have time to tour like that anymore. And I didn't want to hold back the guys. So I told him, if you can find another vocalist, go for it. I don't want to hold you guys back. And the bassist just ended up doing the vocals for one more album, and then they dissolved. And 2 years ago, my buddy just showed up, and he's like, hey man, this old school death project I have, just really local, small time, let's just have fun, do some shows. I'm like, sure, why not? I have 3 kids now. They're a bit older, and let's just do it. Let's try it, And so we started jamming for 2-3 months, and we get this gig offer right off the bat, and it's to open up for Max Cavalera.
Nice.
So we're like, wow, our first show, and let's just do it. So we opened up for that tour. It was his Nail Bomb tour. He was redoing that whole Nail Bomb album live.
Very nice.
So we opened for that, and then PRC Music approached us, which is a label up here in Canada. And they're like, we want to sign you guys to do shows and an album. So sure, why not? Let's do it. So our album came out on PRC Music. So we're distributed everywhere around the world now. And we just can't promote that album. We can't do shows. So if anyone out there wants to hear what we do, go on our Bandcamp. You can purchase it there. Helps us out.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's like, it's just going to shows and seeing good vocalists that have always been my focal point. It just made me want to just do it just like anybody else could.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. If you have the courage to do something, just do it. Don't back yourself down and just think it's not going to work. Like, I didn't expect this podcast was going to happen, and it did. And here I am at the moment, just saving grace.
10 episodes in.
Yeah. And I've got another 34 episodes booked at the moment, so it's kind of like
that's great
sessions. So it's all good. Hopefully I can get more sessions by the end of this year, and then let's see what happens next year, because if they say things starting to go back to normal, I want to do things like face-to-face interviews, and
For sure.
it'd
I
be like
can't wait to do that.
it'd be like a sit-down chat with people that I already have interviews with. It'd be like a catch-up podcast as well.
Yep.
So I've got like ideas, but I don't know if you remember, but I did like an opportunity. I did to do something like a roundtable Monday, where
Yeah.
people can from different music for positions can actually have a discussion on Zoom or whatever to actually speak to other musicians and have leave some tips or ideas or equipment ideas, and that would be something like that, or even have like a trivia questionnaire going through as well. So it's something like to have fun with as far as socializing with people on here.
Try anything, man. Just do it. Just do
Exactly.
anything you have in mind, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At least you tried.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and anything you can try at home right now, just do it.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
nothing stopping you.
No, and it's like I just said, there's never a limit when you want to do something so big, and if you can do it, you definitely can do it, like you just mentioned.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think there's always going to be a good thing to do. But I would love to see how this goes. I know for a fact I definitely want to do Twitch, mainly because it's more of a job position I want to do. And if this becomes to be a good full-time position, I'll definitely would take it within no question,
For sure, man.
But I know I'm going to be spending a lot on equipment, and that's going to have to be repaying the favor of hard work and dedication. But I'm up for it, and I'm up for doing this as well. So there's always going to be time for this, and there's always time to do Twitch. So there's
Well,
always stuff to
anytime you want to have me over again, maybe a round table, a trivia night, anything, I'm down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely will mention it to people again to see what they say. It would be something like a Fox and Hobbs Thursday session, but it'd be like a part Joshua Files round table
Yeah.
session. So it's kind of like
last week when I did the review on Wednesday, like I said, at the end there were so many people on, because we do live YouTube, right?
Yeah.
There are so many people still talking on the live. I'm like, you know what, guys, just give me a second. I'll just pop you all in on the Zoom with me and my metal-minded buddies, and let's talk it out. So we ended up talking for like another 3 hours after
That's
the
ridiculous.
thing. It was insane. At the end, everyone was super tired. One of the guys, he was actually sitting around his little fire in his backyard, just drinking beer, talking to us. And honestly, the community understands that what we're doing, every one of us, what we're doing right now with these podcasts, it's very important, because this is how we're connecting. This is how we're realizing that the scene is really big, even though it's really small, So we're all connecting through the big guys, the small guys. Everyone's living the same thing, and we're just going to enjoy it the way we can.
Yeah, we're, as we mentioned before, we all in the same position, so we have to support each other much as well as possible. And this community actually does help in a big way.
Yep.
It goes into show that no matter how big or small you are always going to be there to support other people. Like we are there to support Matt with his Fox and Harps. Matt is there to support our podcast sessions. It's always a big stepping stone to have somebody like that to say you can do anything if you want to do it.
Exactly.
I think
he pretty much pushed you into doing this. Like
he
gave you that extra punch there.
He did, and the best thing I would have loved to do is have him to record that saving video that him and I had that interview with. But unfortunately, he would not do that, and I'm not happy about it. But I think it's on YouTube. So if anybody's curious about what I spoke to Matt about, it's definitely on Fox and Hub's YouTube page, as far as I remember. But I am definitely having an interview session with Matt McGackie on August the 24th, which would be on my 29th birthday.
So, you have the same birthday as my dad.
Hey.
August 24th. My son is August 26th.
Nice.
Yep.
What a coincidence, hey? But no, it'll be a good session. I want to try to get like an after party or something after the podcast and interview, see what happens. But I'll speak to Matt about it, see if he's up for it. But he will likely stick to his Thursday sessions, and which is fine. I know I'll be off for that week, so I'll definitely be there for that night.
Cool.
It'll be very, very cool indeed. So we've got one more question before we finish.
Go for it.
Music inspiration. Obviously, you mentioned about you've listened to rock and metal before. Have you listened to any other genres before? Like maybe say something like the 80s theme, like retro perspective, or
When I was a kid, my parents were very much into. My mom was into what was like Heart and Scorpions and Foreigner and
yeah,
Journey.
yeah,
That whole bracket. So
yes,
I fell in love with all of that. And my dad was very into that grunge phase. So he was all about that Pearl Jam and all those bands. So
Alice in Chains,
I
etc. Yeah,
exactly. So I grew up with a mix between those two. A
mm.
band that played often in my house was also Def Leppard when I was a kid.
Yes, yeah,
That played a whole lot. See, like I'm going to be 33 in 2 days. So I mean, we're almost the same age. So we pretty much grew up with the same bands.
yeah,
So like all those bands helped shape me. And then at some point, when that whole new metal phase came, that shaped me a whole lot. I mean,
yeah.
I was a huge Korn fan, still am. I love that band. I've seen them live many times. I still
Nice.
enjoy their albums. They are amazing. I mean, Mudvayne, talk about a good band. That hit me hard. Like, I mean, their first album was pretty intense. LD50, wow. See, like that's how I grew up. And then my uncles, both my uncles were really into Metallica
Yeah.
when I was younger. So
Mhm.
they were the ones that pretty much like poked the metal side of it all.
Yeah.
So that whole Metallica, and I remember when I was 13 years old, I think 13 or 14, there was a huge summer sanitarium tour with Metallica, and it was Metallica, Deftones, Mudvayne, Linkin Park, and Limp Bizkit. So,
Nice.
so it was a really big tour, and I was young, and I was like, "Holy shit! The tickets are $120." So I was like,
Wow.
I can't afford that." And my uncle surprised me the day of the show. He's like, "Hey, by the way, I have tickets, man. You're coming." I was like, "Holy
Wow.
shit!" So I got to see that show, and all my buddies were already going with their tickets. So there was the whole lot of us just enjoying that
That's
entire
really,
festival.
really cool, man.
And I remember after that new metal phase, I pretty much fell into death metal right away.
Yeah.
And it was death metal and melodic death metal. So I was a big In Flames fan, Old Dark Tranquility.
Nice.
I really enjoyed bands like Fear My Thoughts.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was really big into that whole melodic death scene.
Mhm.
And then after that, it pretty much fell into like brutal death and grind. So I'm brutal death, tech death, grind. But I will often still listen to rock and old metal. I mean, one of the bands I listen to the most when I'm just sitting in my backyard with the kids is some CCR. Just listen
Nice.
to really old classic rock. Like, I love me some CCR in the backyard, just chilling, having a beer. So, I
Very
mean,
nice.
influences range from everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, you got to have that everywhere to have that variety of music that you like.
Exactly.
For example, if it wasn't for video games, I probably would have known most of the music genre I have in my life now. Like there were some video games like Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It had the perfect 80s theme that I fell in
Yep.
love with when it comes to thrash metal, or even like Cynic Wave, retro. So it's kind of like it had that vibe. So I'm pretty much in love with the 80s theme. So I put some music on when it comes to like video games. I put on like Cynic Wave to actually feel the chills.
Yep.
I do listen to like brutal death metal. I do listen to like grind. I do listen to death metal, but you got to have that variety. I even listen to like jazz and blues, coincidentally, you know, and
Yeah.
it's an odd thing for people to think, what, you listen to blues, you listen to jazz? It's like, yeah, if it wasn't for stuff like that, we wouldn't
Yeah.
have like the rock bands, we wouldn't have like the metal bands, we wouldn't have like,
Exactly.
those
See, I also listen to some metalcore, some hardcore. I like a lot of those bands. I
mm,
mean, I can listen to pretty much anything. If it sounds good to me, it all relies on the singer because I'm a singer.
yeah,
If the singer doesn't appeal to me, the band is dead for me. Like, I
yeah,
mean, it's not going anywhere.
no,
I will, even if it's a band like local, I'll support the guys, even if I don't like the singer. But I mean, to listen for myself, I need the singer to have something that I like.
yeah. I think for me, it's as I'm a music enthusiast, it's more of not just me being a 1-year-old baby that sit on the high chair and go batshit crazy with specific music that was playing in the early 90s, like my mum always tells me, or as my grandparents said at one time, I would put a specific music on their big stereo,
Yep.
put it full blast as I was probably 3 or 4 years old, shaking everywhere and listening to the music. It's got to have that, like you said, it's got to have that vibe. It's got to have that music interest in me to actually say, I love this. I want to keep this in my life. I want to listen to this until I'm basically disappeared. And, you know, that's piece of me in my life is music has always been in my life. And it's always been my best friend when it comes to such situations. Like,
Same for me.
you know,
Any situation. Like, I can give you an example of when I was younger, let's say 14, 15, I used to like this band, local band around here called Quo Vadis.
Yep.
And they were a death metal band. And I remember my mom used to wake me up because I'd fall asleep listening to the band. It was calming for me to listen to them.
Nice.
It was the perfect way to relax after I went to school or whatever. I'd sit down and just sit on my bed and just listen to them and just fall asleep. So you can find what you like in any style. You just have to figure out what you like.
Exactly. And it's definitely one of the things you definitely want to listen to from music perspective. Like if you're a big music enthusiast like I am or you are, you got to have that right music variety and you got to make sure it feels comfortable for you.
Yep.
I don't discourage anybody that listens to specific music. I am more than happy and open for anybody listen to what they want to listen. But if it's shit, I will say shit. And that's plain and simple, you know.
Exactly. Like, see, just behind me, you can see I have Led Zeppelin with an aborted right next to each other.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like
it's
from one side to the other,
isn't there? There's a mixture.
Exactly. See, there's actually Ingested on it.
There we go.
That show was fucking sick.
Yeah. And I know for a fact you will see my flags, but unfortunately the lighting in here is
I saw him earlier though.
Yeah, but it's gone pretty much dark now and sunset is about to set now.
For me it's 3:24 in the afternoon, so now it's pretty chill. I'm gonna go have a beer in my backyard like right after this.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, this is going to probably be the end of the podcast, but we have an opportunity where we can actually do some shout outs for bands or like companies that do need the recognition, they do need the support. I know I mentioned a few times about specific companies and specific of bands, but I don't really have that much of opportunity for any bands. Like I've mentioned it so many times on my personal account and nobody's given me anything to recommend. But I would say, for me, I would like to say people that want to do, like we mentioned before, go to Bandcamp and do direct digital support for bands that do need the money. You can do like indie merch. You can do all those big Imperial Cons. You can do like those companies. But if you want digital merchandise or anything like that, you can go straight to Bandcamp, and then it definitely goes into the income of the bands themselves instead of the record companies or the label companies or whatever the case may be. Label companies are not that bad, but it's more of the profit that kind of matters the most. My music recommendation of this episode would have to be Post-Mortal Possession. They just released an album yesterday.
Okay.
And basically it's more of brutal death metal. It's death metal in it as well. It's really cool. It's got 9 songs in it on the album. So it's called Post-Mortal Possession. And if I can remember what the album's called, as I'm checking right now, so I don't have to be a complete idiot, it's called Catacombs of Bedlam. So it's basically, as I said, it's a brutal death metal band and it's really cool. So if anybody's got anything to listen to, definitely recommend it. That's my album of the week. So I'll leave it to you of what recommendations you want to do, and then we'll call it a day.
All right. Well, obviously, shout out to my own band. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out. Old School Death Metal. The band is called Cruel Fate. We released an album in December 2019. If you guys are fans of metal, you can check us out on Facebook also. My page is Metal Minded. We do a lot of stuff in French, but if you speak English and you post, people will respond in English. So do not worry. We can respond in English. Most of us speak both languages on there.
Yep.
And if you do speak French and want to check out my podcasts, we do 2 of them a week. We have a YouTube channel. You can check us out, Metal Minded Canada. And for other shout outs, I've mentioned them throughout, but if you guys like death metal, go check out Insurrection from here in Canada. Really good death metal band. And locally, check out Kilitaurus, which I've also mentioned. They released a monster album last week. And for something cool I listened to over the past week, I listened to this band I didn't know existed, and they're called Basement Torture Killings.
Yep.
And their band, Death Grind. Frickin' love that album. The
really
new album
band.
that just came out, it's really good. So really I listened to that like yesterday, I think it was, and I was really surprised.
It's yesterday. I'm friends with a band, and they are definitely a quality band. I've seen them a couple of times live. Nice. Especially in the early days. So they've been around for a couple of years now, and they're really, really brutal.
I might review them sometime soon. I really like the album.
I'll definitely recommend it for sure.
Cool. So that'll be it for me.
There we go. So my final verdict of the words of what I have to say of this podcast before we finish, and you can have your say in a bit if you want to, Yolin. I can understand the situation of COVID-19 is fucking sucks. And I know the law is kind of changing every day, and there's some different circumstances, and there's obviously the riots that are going around due to this whole circumstances in Minneapolis and Minnesota. But at the same time, we all have to make sure we stick together. We all have to make sure we try to be a unit and make sure we don't crack like an egg. No, we have to make sure we are there for each other. We have to support each other, and we have to make sure we're in the worst times, pick other people up and make sure they are there for the goodness and not for the shittest moments.
Yeah.
You know, I will make sure I'll do my best to support many bands as possible, like I always do. Next week I am obviously going to be doing my 3-day session podcast again. So it's a new week, a new opportunity of questions to our specific members. But I would like to say thank you to Mr. Yolin to coming on the podcast. It means a fucking lot. And as I said, we've been friends for a couple of months now since the Fox and Half Thursday section has actually happened. So thank you to Mr. Matt McGackie, who actually did the podcast page platform. And it was actually a great suggestion. I know for a fact Corey wanted to do a Whiskey Wednesday session, and I don't know if there's many people who are fans of whiskey, but
I am.
Oh, there we go. So there's another person. I don't drink whiskey, but I definitely would do a page and then see if Matt gets jealous about it and see what happens. But I like the idea of Whiskey Wednesday, but it would be something like almost like Fox and Up Thursday, where we will have like a group session. But Matt and every other people will be more than welcome to join. I would definitely have to make sure to do the page and see what people say, or if the invitation's high, then people can join. And then if the higher invitation goes, I would start doing Zoom conferences like this. Like Matt does. And it will have to be flexibility, I definitely know. But it will have to be on the specific days where people are definitely flexible. Wednesday, I'll be finishing late, but at the same time, it's a good opportunity for me to jump on and do a session podcast where people like in Montreal, Quebec, are the most viewers or activity people when it comes to Fox and Hops, that they do Thursday sections. So sometimes I miss them out, but I always go to the after party. So if you are not there for the main podcast, you can always drop in for the after party sessions on the Thursday Fox and Hops sessions.
For sure.
But definitely
those are always fun.
They're always fun. I definitely had my fair shares of funness so far, and it's been a fucking blast to meet many people, including yourself, Yolin. So
thank you very much. Same to you, man.
Thank you.
So obviously, thank you for the opportunity to have me on here.
A pleasure.
It was very fun talking about different topics. And anytime you want to have me over again, just hit me up.
Absolutely. And I know that my schedule at the moment is all the way to October, but I can always definitely put you in regardless. I'll probably will put you in like in a priority list. So I know it's kind of like a new fancy thing because people will probably say, oh, so he's got a priority list now, has he? I'll be like, yeah, I'll probably have, but it's just to make sure people, you know, they want to jump into the sessions more often, they can, and that could probably work. But it's also flexibility. So I want to make sure for my podcast, flexibility is the main key factor for every person that I do session with, what I want to schedule interviews with, and it's always a big thing. So I want to make sure people are happy. So far, there's been no complaints. There's been some reschedule here and there, like with you. I've done that. I've done it with Flo last week. So it's kind of like I'm trying to make sure everybody's flexible. So that's the main thing. And I want to make sure everybody's happy. I don't want people to be pissed off, That's not me.
Not in this life situation,
No.
Let's be cool and have fun.
Exactly. But yeah. So thank you very much to everybody who wanted to listen to this podcast. It means a lot. If you have not done this yet, subscribe to the YouTube page and hit the notification bell. It will definitely notify you when the next episode comes up on YouTube. That always comes handy. If you don't want to do that, it's not a problem. But otherwise, go and follow my Facebook page called the Joshua Files Podcast on Facebook. That could be another alternative thing that you can do. I normally post the new schedules of interview sessions, videos when they go up live. Probably gonna be stuff like the Whiskey Wednesday sessions, or gonna be like the Roundtable Monday sessions. It'll be some stuff like it's gonna happen in the near future. It's gonna be timing consuming thing, but it will definitely happen if it happens. My Twitch stream will probably happen as well. But if you definitely want to follow me personally, you can follow me on Instagram called autistic.slammer. It's all in one word, so there's no space or whatever. But definitely hit me up if you want to join into the interview sessions that I definitely would put you in. Just don't be a dick. That's what I ask. If you can't be patient, that's completely fine. But just notify that every time I have a new interview sessions coming in through and through, the schedule for you is going to be much, much later. So please bear that in mind when you want to be interviewed or book you in. Just bear in mind the sessions are going to be it's not going to be longer, but it's just like to put you in on the booking scheme system. It's going to be at a longer time period. So that's always a mindful thing. As I said to just now to Yolin, that all my booking system is all the way up till October now. So I've definitely got a lot of sessions coming in. That's why I've done 3 days instead of 2 days. Otherwise, it will be going until next year. Yep. That's just going to be a fucking nightmare. So, yeah. So, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Stay tuned for next week, where I definitely just mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, I'm interviewing Mr. Tom Cahill from Vision of Disfigurement. Yeah, thank you very much for listening, and peace out. And thank you to Yolin. Appreciate it, man. Cheers. All right, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.